There was a time when people really thought Chance the Rapper was about to be the next big thing in hip-hop, right up there with Drake. Even the president gave him a shout-out. At his peak, he was breaking records, winning Grammys as an independent artist, and getting huge offers from streaming platforms like Apple Music to make his projects exclusives. So how did he go from all that to being seen as someone whose career took such a surprising turn? Today, we're taking a look at how Chance the Rapper's career took a surprising turn. Chancellor Bennett always seemed like he was meant for big things. Unlike many other rappers from Chicago, Chance didn't grow up in a tough neighborhood and actually discovered his love for music during high school poetry sessions. After getting suspended for smoking, he decided to use that time to focus on his first big project. The result was 10 Day, a mixtape he dropped in 2012 that quickly made waves in Chicago and caught the attention of dedicated rap fans. Right from the start, Chance's unique vibe and way of delivering his music made him stand out. At a time when Chicago was getting known for a harder rap style, he brought something fresh and creative, kind of like the energy Kanye West had back in his pink polo and backpack days. Around then, Chance was rolling with the Save Money crew, a group packed with some of Chicago's most talented artists who were all about pushing boundaries. You had Chance, Vic Mensa, Tokyo, Joey Purp, and a bunch of other amazing creatives. Honestly, the way this group just kind of faded over time is crazy. It's like something that should be studied. At one point, they all had record labels coming after them, but nobody was getting more buzz than Chance the Rapper. When he dropped his second mixtape, Acid Rap, in 2013, it blew up. Over 50,000 downloads on DatPiff in a single day. And this was before streaming services were even a thing, so those numbers were huge for someone just breaking into the scene. With that kind of hype, labels were all over him, seeing major potential. After putting out his music, Chance started getting attention from big record labels. Some even set up meetings with him, but he decided to pass on signing with any of them. Instead, he stuck with his close crew, including his manager, Pat Cochran. Pat ended up being a key part of Chance's journey, especially when things got a little tricky later on. At the time, Chance and his team believed they could make it work by staying focused and hustling hard without relying on the big labels. Even though he didn't sign with a label, he teamed up with a superstar CAA agent, Kara Lewis, who works with big names like Kanye West and Eminem. This basically gave him the perks of a major label without actually being tied to one. With this setup, Chance was set to skyrocket. By the time he released his third mixtape, Coloring Book, he was already seen as one of the biggest names in rap, all without even dropping a traditional album. He eventually got used to being well known, even though it wasn't something he really aimed for. He shared how, in the beginning, he used to personally hand out his CDs to people, making sure they experienced his music the way he intended. But now, as a more recognized artist, things are different. His popularity grew like a ripple, and he doesn't have as much say in how people perceive him anymore. Back in May 2016, Chance really hit his stride with the release of Coloring Book. Apple Music even paid $500,000 to have it exclusively, and the project featured big names like Wayne, 2 Chainz, Kanye, and Young Thug, plus a bunch of other huge artists. At that point, it felt like everyone was rooting for him. People loved Chance, and everyone wanted to collaborate with him. Why? Because he brought so much love and good energy to the scene. Call it manifestation or just keeping the momentum going, but Chance's blessings kept rolling in. When he brought home 2 Grammys in 2017 for Best New Artist and Best Rap Album, he made history as the first artist to do it with a streaming-only release. Before long, Chance was on top of the world, and people started saying some pretty bold things about him. There was a point when it seemed like Drake and Chance the Rapper weren't exactly on the best terms. In 2014, Drake dropped a song called Draft Day, where he mentioned Chance in a way that felt a little off. It was clear he wasn't really vibing with him. Usually Drake's all about collaborating with up-and-coming artists, but that didn't happen with Chance. Since then, they've kind of kept their distance and haven't really worked together. Chance the Rapper used to be seen as one of the most exciting new artists in the music world, full of talent and big potential. When he worked with Kanye West on Ultralight Beam, a lot of people thought it was just the beginning of an amazing career. But over time, things haven't gone quite the way everyone expected, and his journey has turned out to be a bit more complex than it first seemed. After Coloring Book, Chance really leaned into that phase of his career. He reportedly made a ton of money from his 3 hats, around $6 million, and started giving back in a big way, including donating $1 million to mental health organizations in Chicago. But even with all the good he was doing, some people started to feel a bit annoyed with his image. In hip-hop, a genre that tends to lean more skeptical, anything that comes off as too polished or overly positive can sometimes be seen as uncool or out of place. A lot of artists run into challenges working with music labels, and Chance the Rapper dealt with a few as well. He got some mixed reactions, even from Wale, who he'd worked with before. Wale shared a post online that seemed to call out how some artists come across. After Chance performed First World Problems on a late-night show, more comments started rolling in. Being in the public eye always brings a mix of reactions, some good, some not so great. Joe Budden gave his take on Chance the Rapper's recent performance style, saying it felt a little too upbeat and hard to really critique. He admitted the emotional vibe and themes didn't quite connect with him. Joe said he'd love to see Chance go back to a more Chicago-inspired sound, working with artists like G Herbo, instead of leaning so much into softer guitar-driven music. It's just not the kind of vibe Joe was hoping for. Joe Budden wasn't feeling Chance's overly positive vibe anymore. At the time, Chance was riding high, so comments like these from Budden and Wale, both talented rappers who didn't quite get the same mainstream recognition, might have come off as a bit salty. Over time, the way he came across started to affect how people felt about him. At first, it was nice that he was always so upbeat and cheerful, but after a while, some folks felt like it was a bit much. It kind of seemed like he was trying a little too hard to come off as super positive, and not everyone loved that. At this point, Chance still had a clean image. Sure, he talked about his struggles with substances in his music, but he was always pretty open about it. For the most part, he stayed out of trouble. But as people started to get tired of the good guy image, Budden actually called what was going to happen next in his career. Joe Budden talked about how things can go when someone rubs a lot of people the wrong way. He explained that when enough people feel a certain way, stories can start to pop up. Even if not everyone buys into them, they can still create some drama. He said it's better to face these things head on instead of brushing them off, because that negative energy will catch up to you sooner or later. Just like Budden predicted, there came a point where all the negativity started to spill over. On top of that, he ended up upsetting someone close to him along the way. After everything unfolded, Chance started to lose a bit of that good guy image that had kept a lot of the criticism at bay. After a long wait, Chance finally dropped his debut album, The Big Day, in July 2019. Fans and critics were eager to see what he'd come up with next, but the album didn't quite land the way people hoped. It ended up being a super personal project all about how much he loves his wife, which some found a bit awkward in its execution. His album came out strong, debuting at number 2 on the charts, which seemed like a big win at first. But that's when things started to take a bit of a turn. Critics weren't too thrilled with it and felt like it didn't quite hit the mark. Some even mentioned they didn't really connect with any of the songs, which left a pretty mixed impression overall. It ended up being a challenging moment in his career. Chance the Rapper went through a rough patch when people started poking fun at him and his music. Fans who used to cheer him on didn't seem to vibe with his new album as much. He opened up about how the criticism stung because he was really proud of what he'd created. It left him feeling a bit down and self-conscious, and it wasn't easy to shake off. So, what are your thoughts on this? Share what you think below and be sure to check out the next video.